And before I get going, I love when you tell the story about the gunshot story.
Oh yeah, we'll tell that.
So could you come up here with me, or can you tell the gunshot story?
Yeah, I'll do that in another little piece, because your part we'll do all together, and then I'll put the gunshot story. And where she's talking about is how we came up with the first mini-gastric bypass, and there's a drug dealer involved.
Love it. Oh, good story.
Gunshot wounds. It's got everything. There's love. There's excitement.
Yeah. It could be a movie.
There's adventure.
I hope Oprah never actually finds you, because she'll snatch you away.
Yeah.
You should still be on Oprah instead of Dr. Oz, but whatever.
Okay, I spent 20 years at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill. I was hired as a professor of surgery there in trauma and critical care medicine. And my primary job was the intensive care unit and taking care of trauma patients. I also did general surgery. I was also hired, when I started, to help do the old open kind of weight loss surgery. So I did a lot of the old stomach stapling and the Roux-en-Y gastric bypass. And had kind of mixed feelings about it, but I do think that we helped some people, but it had a very high complication rate. I started doing laparoscopic Roux-en-Y gastric bypass in 1997. And so we're now, 10 years past those first couple of cases. And I wasn't wild about the laparoscopic Roux-en-Y, I wasn't wild about the Roux-en-Y. And one Thursday, I was on call for trauma when I got a call that someone had been in a accident. He was shot. He was a drug dealer in downtown Durham, North Carolina, and there was a disagreement with one of his customers over the pricing. And so he got shot 6 times in the belly with a .357 Magnum. And about 9 o'clock that night, I got him upstairs into the operating room. He was shot through the stomach, in the lower part of the stomach, through the tail of his pancreas. We took out the tail of his pancreas and the spleen, cut away the bottom part of his stomach, took away 2 or 3 pieces of intestine that were shot up, and then we had to hook up things. So we hooked up the intestine, and we hooked the stomach to the side of the bowel. And that's called a Billroth 2 loop gastrojejunectomy, and that was invented over 100 years ago. We use it every day in surgery in the United States and around the world to hook things together, and it's a good, not perfect, but a good kind of surgery. So about 3 o'clock in the morning, got him into the ICU, and he was stable. And the next day, I had a laparoscopic Roux-en-Y gastric bypass scheduled on a patient that I knew. And I talked to her and I said, gee, I think we should do the Billroth 2 connection rather than the Roux-en-Y for a variety of reasons, which you kind of have heard about, including its simplicity, its safety, its reversibility, its revisability. And I said, it's known to have some complications, what's called a marginal ulcer or gastritis, but so does the Roux-en-Y, so I recommended that, and that was in September of 1997. That patient did well, and since that time, we've done 4,000 more people over the past 10 years. And as we were talking about, all across the United States and around the world, we're seeing more and more people beginning to adopt it, mostly around the world than the United States. But it's exciting for us, and it all went back to a drug dealer in downtown Durham. As a side note, he came back from prison to see me about 6 months later, and he had started off about 195, 200-pound, strapping, scary-looking drug dealer, and he really wasn't a good candidate for an MGB by gunshot wound. And so when he came back from prison, he was pretty skinny-looking. So he lost a lot of weight over the subsequent 6 months. So it's probably good not to have your MGB by gunshot wound if you're only 185 pounds.